Tú eres muy malo. Roto el pato de vestuario. La interpretación siempre negativa. Siempre negativa. Nunca positiva.
Hello, welcome to Siempre Positivo after Barcelona beat Sevilla 5-2 to maintain their 4-point lead over Real Madrid at the top of La Liga. And Joan Laporta has been re-elected as Barcelona president, beating Victor Font in Sunday's election to secure another 5-year term. Slightly different format to the podcast for you today. The first section is me and Rick speaking after Barca's win against Sevilla at Spotify Camp Nou about that game. And then the second section, which will be over on Patreon only, but for all members free and paid, will focus on the election and Joan Laporta's win. No Tony today. We did see him briefly at Camp Nou. He was doing a spot for TV, but he missed the Barca-Sevilla game and wasn't able to stick around after the election. But he will be back later in this week, of course, for the Patreon podcast following the Champions League game against Newcastle on Wednesday. That will be dropping on Thursday, and also Q&A coming up for Patreons later in this week. We'll drop a link for you on Patreon to get your questions in. In the meantime, here's Monday's podcast. Remember, the second part only up over on Patreon.
El titular te lo pongo yo. Enjoy football. Y ya está.
I'm with Rick Sharma. It's just gone 8 p.m. We're in the tent where there's some food available for the media covering the elections, and we're winding down after Barcelona's 5-2 win against Sevilla in La Liga. Rick, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Interesting game. Actually, not that interesting of a game. That's just nonsense for me. It was quite I wouldn't say boring game, because obviously 7 goals is not boring, but ultimately a game which was put to bed very early on, and after that everyone was just going through the motions. Yeah,
it was a funny game, and I guess we're come through that, because obviously 5-2 sounds like a super performance from Barca, the perfect warm-up from Newcastle, but it was highly conditioned by 2 early penalties, both converted by Raphinha. I don't know if that was interesting. We can talk about that later. I don't know if interesting in the word, but certainly sort of condemning for Robert Lewandowski in his current moment of form. The first Raphinha penalty at Panenka down the middle, the second buried in the bottom corner, both won by João Cancelo, the first from a foul, the second via a handball. Dani Olmo made it 3-0 in the 38th minute. Lovely finish after a slightly fortunate deflection on the cross, but a good move nonetheless from Barcelona, who switched off late in the first half in stoppage time, allowing Osso, the Bear, to make it 3-1. We'll also talk about that goal, about whether there was anyone to blame or whatnot. But Barcelona, I wouldn't say roared back in the second half, but they never really looked like they were in doubt of dropping the points. I guess at 3-1 with that late Sevilla goal, it gave Sevilla a slight glimmer of hope, and you thought if they get the next goal, perhaps we could see Barca not struggling, but a little bit backs to the wall the final 20 minutes. But Raphinha made it 4-1 in the 51st minute, and João Cancelo with a brilliant goal, chopping back and then finishing to make it 5-1 on the hour mark. Made sure Barca wrapped up the 3 points, but they did switch off again late on, so grabbing a late consolation for Sevilla once again in second half stoppage time. 2 of the things which annoyed Flick and goalkeeper Joan Garcia, as Barca conceded at the end of both halves. But like you say, Rick, not a difficult performance to assess, but one that's massively conditioned by the fact Barca had those two penalties in the first 21 minutes, and Sevilla was sort of blown away really and out of the game by then.
Yeah, I think that Barca, they did what they had to do, but it's so conditioned by those penalties that were given away. It wasn't like Barca were doing sort of a great deal before that first penalty. If anything, Sevilla had slightly the better of the first sort of 8 minutes before that penalty was given away. But yeah, nice burst into the box from Cancelo, and just a poor foul. I think it was he brought him down, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, which was not good. And then another silly penalty given away, handball by Carmona, kind of funny handball, kind of at full stretch. And it's one of those where I know the player probably didn't mean to handball it, but his hand was so far away from his body and he was lying there that I think it was quite reasonable to give. And then 21 minutes in, 2 penalties from Raphinha, Barca cruising, almost third goal, just sort of makes the game, it really kills the game. Right? That's the end of it. And then Sevilla scored, but I never really expected them to come back, and when Raphinha scores again so early in the second half with the help of a quite a big deflection, then it's just over and done with, and on to the more important matter of the day, which is the election.
There's two Sevilla goals at the end of each half, I guess maybe slightly subtract from what I'm about to say, but in terms of Newcastle on Wednesday in terms of Real Madrid having beaten Elche on Saturday and Barca needing to win this with as minimal fuss as possible. It was about the perfect Sunday afternoon possible ahead of that Newcastle game, in the sense of winning the game, but also in the sense of Javi Aspas coming in and making his full debut at right back after getting those minutes off the bench in Newcastle in midweek. In the case of, Rooney coming in on the right to give Lamine Yamal a rest, Lamine obviously coming on for the final half an hour, and also the fact that Barca 5-1 up were able to bring Gavi on as well after 81 in the 82nd minute. Probably the loudest roar of the night when Gavi came back after that injury. And of course, we've already touched on it there, but the fact that two of them might have been penalties, the third one massive deflection, but a hat-trick for Raphinha, certainly just for his sort of state of mind, his mentality, perhaps that's important for Barca. I mean, we touched on the last podcast, 1 goal in 6 before tonight since he come back from his latest injury. That's now 4 in 7 all of a sudden. Obviously 3 of them are penalties.
Yeah, but Barca will be hoping it's like a fuse which is damp. It's been damp. He's not been playing particularly well, but today maybe the fuse was lit, and then let's see what happens after that. Yeah,
because I don't think it's not the hat-trick Lamine Yamal scored the other week, but you have to score the penalties. You've seen Barca miss a lot. It's got a slight deflection on the third, but it's got the hat-trick, got the match ball in his mind. That would be confidence ahead of the Newcastle game. And I don't know how different his role was, but obviously he had a certain freedom to come inside, with Cancelo sort of basically given the left flank. We hardly ever saw Raphinha on the wide left position, more inside left, second striker, even coming over to sort of help out Ronnie Bardghji at times.
Yeah, I said this in the Discord, and I mean, we'll probably get onto it when we talk about Lewandowski, but actually I think Raphinha kind of relishes playing with Lewandowski because he gets the permit to run in behind the defence and be through on goal, or try and get through on goal in a central position, which he doesn't really get with Ferran, because obviously Ferran is capable of making those runs and does make those runs. I think Ferran, that's one of the things he does better actually, is his movement and getting into good positions. Whereas Lewandowski, not that Lewandowski doesn't do that, but he doesn't do it anywhere near as much as he used to do it, or as much as he should be doing it. Obviously he's 37 and maybe doesn't have the energy for it anymore, but he only gets in those positions sometimes. So as Raphinha sees that, lets Cancelo go up the wing, and then he can go into the middle and try and dart in behind the defenders.
Yeah. I mean, Lewandowski really... I mean, his performance was okay in terms of striking. What let him down was his finishing, whether that was to do with his mask, whether that was to do with who knows, but the header that he missed in the first half at the far post is a header that you see that coming across for Robert Lewandowski and you think goal. You've always got it written, added to your match report. Obviously the chance in the second half as well, other half chances. And also just like I mentioned this in the Discord, and I probably didn't make my point very well. I'm not saying Lewandowski should be taking penalties, but I'm saying, what does it mean to a player of Robert Lewandowski's calibre
to be stripped,
to his sort of self-confidence, to be stripped of, it's either Lamine or Raphinha now. There's no sort of doubt about Lewandowski taking penalties. What that does to his already what looks like sort of reduced levels of confidence.
Yeah, it seems like he's very low on confidence. That's what I would attribute the misses to today more than anything. Is probably his confidence levels, and it doesn't help that those penalties now belong to other players. And I mean, even though I've said for months that Lewandowski is also is washed, that he's not good enough anymore, and that Barca need a new striker next season. I agree with the idea that today wasn't necessarily the best demonstration of it, because he did get chances. It's way worse when he's like against Newcastle, when he's not getting the chances, and even if he did, you got that one, then he doesn't put it away. Whereas at least today he was getting the chances. Kind of a bit what I used to say about Ferran when he first signed for Barcelona. He used to get quite a lot of chances, and I used to be like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. It seems like he's getting in good positions, he's getting a lot of chances, and I think it will turn out right. And I was completely wrong about that, but it's worrying.
Well, the Lewandowski situation keeps us locked in the same debate that we've been repeating over the last few weeks when we're going into these games. Now the Newcastle game on Wednesday is. I couldn't predict what Hansi will do on Wednesday. I would lean towards Varane will start, because Varane's not even come on today.
Yeah.
But neither has Marcus Rashford. I would imagine that means Lewandowski doesn't start playing the 90 minutes today. I don't know. Maybe Flick will give him one more chance, and he's trying to play him into form, play him into confidence. I mean, I feel like maybe we're what's the saying about beating a dead horse thing?
Flogging a dead
horse with with Rashford, whether that could just be a surprise element, and perhaps for a Champions League game, Flick will go Rashford through the...
I don't see it. I think he would have given him some minutes today, even if it was just on the wing. Because, like I said in the last pod, he had until the last game, he had only played 60 minutes in the last month before that. I think Rashford's just dipped out of his thoughts, really. I think it'll be Ferran that starts on against Newcastle.
Well, yeah, no minutes for Ferran or Rashford today.
But for different reasons, I think. I think for Ferran, because Flick's like, right, I'm going to start him against Newcastle, we'll keep him fresh. And for Rashford, it's like he's just not even being considered at the moment.
Maybe, we'll see. I mean, the logical situation would have been for one of them to come on in instead of Lamine, but obviously Flick said it had been agreed that Lamine would come on and get some minutes, needs rhythm. I don't know how true that is when you're playing games so regularly at this stage of the season, and how much it is Lamine sort of saying, I want some minutes. And also there is an element, we're not quite there yet, and it shouldn't be a consideration, but there is kind of a consideration where the Messi factor came into play, and people come to stadiums to watch Lamine Yamal.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to consider, people would be, you'd have bad reviews on TripAdvisor. Went to the new Spotify Camp Nou. It was great, and this is another point which we've not mentioned yet. Great to have the goal Nord open, and the increased attendance, and not that empty goal behind the goal which looks so bad on television in the stadium. Also the singing section back creating an atmosphere, and Lamine Yamal coming on, so the punters got their money.
Yeah, rare record attendance, 56,000, and it's a good point actually. Like, if you once a good metaphor for it is once I went to a pasta restaurant. And I ordered this pasta. It was truffle pasta, and it came, and it was not bad, but it didn't have very much truffle on it. Whereas the photos on Google Maps had loads of truffle on it, which is a bit like tourists coming to Camp Nou and not getting to watch Lamine Yamal when they know that obviously he's the big attraction these days. I reckon that probably is an element of that,
Yeah. I mean, Xavi Espart's full debut. All the goals conceded. What do you make of them? I mean, the first one you could criticise a few people. They've switched off basically at the end of the first half. João Cancelo, he's your 3-0 up, has lazily let a runner go.
Yeah.
The guy that's, no, it's not the guy that scores, but another, I'm not sure who it is, has dropped off the defender, which perhaps Olmo could track, and it looks like Xavi Aspart is caught in between going to the ball, going to the man, and he sort of let his man go behind him. A combination of this. I don't think you can...
big combination of things. I understand what Espart's doing, because there's a man free in the middle, so he feels like he's obliged to go and deal with him, but then he leaves at the back post Osso, the bear, to score. But in the first place, this Cancelo's wrong. Maybe Gerard Martin could do more when he's sort of defending in that position to stop the cross, and then Olmo kind of gets back, but doesn't really get back, doesn't really get close to anyone to sort of get involved. I haven't seen it again since I watched the replay of it after the goal, but I haven't gone back and seen it after the game, so I don't know off the top of my head where Marc Bernal is, but he's a defensive midfielder. You kind of expect he should be somewhere there. Maybe he is. Yeah. So I might be. I need to watch it again before laying into him as well. And then so Espart at the back post. But it's kind of a combination of the team thinking the job was done, and it kind of was done, but not to the liking of Flick and Joan Garcia.
Well, and Barca then conceded another goal in stoppage time as well, which I've not seen the images yet, but Hansi Flick was asked about them. Apparently Joan Garcia was really angry, and he said obviously goalkeepers are never happy to concede. And he spoke about Barca not controlling the final 10 minutes very well. And obviously we had the problems with the first goal, but it was quite interesting. I mean, I guess there is kind of a pattern with Hansi Flick whereby when Barca do lose, he's a little bit more defensive. When Barca do win, perhaps he takes that chance to say, there are things we can still improve to keep the players' feet on the ground. But it felt a little bit like that was his plan today. I think he was asked his first three questions. Obviously the first one was about the game, so it's normal to say that. The second one was about Raphinha's hat-trick. The third one was about the election. And all three answers included him going back to his point about, which he'd obviously gone in and he thought, this is what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
And it felt particularly pointed perhaps with Newcastle around the corner, and this idea of, wanting to keep the players grounded after a 5-2 win, and perhaps a little message to them like, look, it was 5-2, but on another day or against the better team, perhaps X, Y or Z happens. But he was very adamant that he wanted to say there were things I didn't like today. Yeah,
I think he wants the players to be ploughing into that Newcastle game with sort of the maximum level of sort of competitive tension, to be sort of springing into the game, and the way to get that is to not let them be happy with their performance, even though it was fine performance. Is to make them kind of anxious to perform, and if maybe even show him wrong, to prove him to be wrong, to go out there and come flying out.
Yeah, well, I think there were two main points he made, basically related to the starting of games. He didn't feel like, you said Sevilla perhaps were fine in the first 8 minutes, and then it changes with the penalty. So perhaps he didn't like that first 8 minutes because he spoke about the focus going into games, snapping into games, and he obviously spoke about that level of control in games as well, which I guess does improve when Pedri's on the pitch. I think we didn't speak about it. We spoke about being the perfect Sunday, but also in his recovery, his comeback plan, he just played the first 45 minutes as he played the second 45 minutes in Bilbao last weekend. So he should be fairly good to go for Newcastle. We don't know if he's ready for... we don't know if he's ready for 90 minutes later. He obviously played 90 minutes against Atletico. I'm getting other journalists in my head now.
Yeah, someone said it in the press conference.
Because Hansi was asked, is he ready for 90 minutes? And Hansi was like, well, we're going step by step. But no, he's already played 90 minutes since he's come back, and he came through it fine. But there is obviously that.
The thing is, there was a moment towards the end of the first half where Pedri was pressing, and he pressed some guy, and then he pressed another guy. And I thought to myself, well, I mean, if Flick's seeing this, he'll probably think, actually, don't spend that energy. So I guess in a way, you could say what Flick's saying after the game is somewhat hypocritical, because he probably also didn't want players like Pedri and Raphinha to spend every drop of energy they had on the pitch. He probably thought, keep that for Newcastle, while at the same time demanding they were better in this game.
Yeah.
So he wants to have his cake and eat it a bit.
Yeah, but then I guess the final note was nice as well. Gavi coming on.
Yeah, it was nice. His fans gave him a big reception when he came on, and he spoke after the game, and he kind of said that this time, because obviously he missed a year in from November 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
No, November
to 20.
Yeah.
So for about a year. So he was out in November 2023 for about a year, and he came back, played like half a season, and he got injured at the start of this season in August. And he said,
he played 42 times last season, which was more than
quite a lot. I
realised.
I guess because he came back like fairly early in the season.
Against who?
Against Sevilla, wasn't it?
Yeah. Sevilla. At the end of the game, which I think Barca won 6-1. Late in the game, end of September, I think it was, though, wasn't it? So a bit earlier,
yeah. And but he came back, and he's only been out now for a few months compared to that sort of year-long injury. But he said actually this was much harder, and he's having much more of a tough time this time. I think because it just adds up, doesn't it? Like he's probably still had that in the back of his head, his first injury. Maybe not to play 42 times, but sort of having that whole year in the bank, thinking you're done with it, and then being sent right back to the start it must be tough. And he said it was, but yeah, he's very happy to be back.
But no, the reception he got was good. I was going to say quite something. I mean, it was quite loud. It was a good reception. I didn't want to go completely overboard. What do you think?
Well, it wasn't crazy. yeah. But I mean, I think it takes a lot to get Camp Nou crazy. Even though today, like you said, the North Stand was open for the first time. They had 56,000. Atmosphere was better than it has been, apart from for the Atletico game, obviously, because that was sort of the remontada spirit. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, people gave him an ovation. But yeah, do you know what? There was one moment apart from that where I thought the crowd were good today, and it was after Cancelo's goal.
I thought you were going to say after Lewandowski missed.
They did chant Lewandowski's name a couple of times, trying to give him a bit of support and G him up. But no, it was after Cancelo scored, and that goal was good. It was a very good goal from Cancelo, like cutting inside the defender and finished through the legs of the goalkeeper, and it got the fans chanting again, and in a way which they hadn't really throughout the rest of the match before that, because it was like, oh, now we've seen something. Until then, even though Barcelona had scored 4 goals, they hadn't really seen anything.
Yeah. No, the atmosphere was much better. There were moments when they got the rest of the stadium up. There were sort of chants and songs that I've not heard for a long time that I almost forgot exist. You know, they had back the Lewandowski Fred Flintstone song, which has been. Yeah. I guess it's not. We've not heard it because he's not been scoring or because he's not been good. It's because they've not been there, sort of doing the chants, and it's been very sort of monotonous, the chants at Barca over the last sort of year without the Gran Animación.
Lewandowski has scored a surprising amount of goals considering how badly, like, visually he's playing. He's scored quite a few goals. Like, I looked at his thing, and every 3 or 4 games he's finding the net. I mean, it's not a lot of goals. Like, it's not like Lewandowski at his best by any means, anywhere close to it. But he hasn't gone that many games without scoring. He does seem to find the net, even if it was, I think, a couple of times with a penalty, although not recently.
No, there was that late one that he scored last week, which was squared for him for Kunde, and he couldn't miss.
Yeah.
When he came off the bench against Villarreal.
Do not in any way consider this praise for Lewandowski. I've been pretty critical of him as well as the other striker.
Just before we get to the ratings, then, where are we at on João Cancelo watch? It's probably strung together. I know there were a couple of lapses. You're always going to get a couple of lapses. I mean, if you can get them at 3-0 at home, you can kind of expect them. But if we go back, since he's come into the team, was it I can't remember which home game it was now, one of the easy ones, Levante perhaps. But then the Newcastle game, the Atletico Madrid game, today's games, probably strung together better performances than I think regardless of what side of the Cancelo fence you're on, whether you think he's an incredible player, great going forward, and you can sort of slightly forgive him his defensive duties, or you think he's always going to cost you defensively, I think you can appreciate that his run of games, I would say, has probably been better than we would have imagined before he came into the team against Levante, when he'd been sort of left out so much.
Yeah, that's fair. I was going to disagree with you, because I did expect this kind of level from him. I just also expect that he is going to make a mistake in a big game. As good as he's been, you have that fear. But I mean, I think it's worth the trade-off. Maybe it's not if it's a Champions League semi-final and it costs you the place in the final or whatever. But in terms of net produce to what he's costing Barca, he's adding a lot. And today you can look at that exact equation and say, oh, he added 3 goals and he cost 1. You know, obviously other players are maybe a bit to blame for that goal, but he set up 2 and he scored 1, and then he contributed to the one they let in first. So yeah, I think Cancelo had a good game and is adding just what he needs to Barca. There's been some debate about whether he should be playing on the left wing in the Discord today. I saw that.
Well, no, I think I started it saying, like, why is he a fullback?
Yeah.
I mean, it is an interesting question. People can obviously make different points.
That's someone, I can't remember who it was now, I'm afraid, said in the Discord. I kind of agree with them on, is that when he plays at left back, he can. It's like he gets that. It's kind of a term for the midfielders, the llegada. Like he can arrive and burst through into the space, which he doesn't get when you're just playing as a left winger. You have a fullback marking you the whole game, and it's not like Cancelo's good on the ball, but he's not like someone who's gonna. It's not like Lamine Yamal. Yeah, he can beat a man. But
we spoke about it the other week. We said how many teams would pick him in LaLiga as their first choice left winger.
Yeah, lots would. But when you're a Barca left winger or a right winger, you can often get 2 defenders on you, and he's not. You know, as good as he is, he's not someone you want starting as your left winger every week. But when he can bomb forward and combine with players and get into space and hit teams, not when they're not expecting it, because obviously you have to expect it when you're playing against Joao Cancelo, but just when they're off balance is really devastating.
Yeah. Well, and it looks like, we'll see if this was a pattern which continues against Newcastle. It looks like they're going to give him the left flank, and he can certainly capitalise that more than Balde going forward. And Raphinha will come inside, and today we saw sort of Marc Bernal running in behind there where sort of Raphinha vacated space, so we'll see how that continues against Newcastle. Alright, then let's hear Rick's ratings from Barcelona 5, Sevilla 2.
So this is probably the ratings I've thought about least this year on the pod, because obviously the game's recently just finished.
Steal them from Flash Score.
It's Flash Score. I think Flash Score always overrates players on the. I do use the app.
Round down.
I have a friend who works for Live Score, so if anything, I should be using their app. But I have Flash Score.
Well, we're not endorsed by anyone. If Flash Score or Live Score want to get in touch, feel free.
Maybe that's not a bad idea. I should ask Lewis about it and see if he'll get us a sponsorship. All right, Joan Garcia, can't really say anything about him. 6 out of 10. Javi Espart, give him a 7. I thought he was decent. Obviously, you can maybe pin a little bit of blame on him for the goal, but I don't really. Pau Kubasi, 7. Gerard Martin, 7, apart from in the first minute where he made a very clumsy, needless foul, and he was kind of lucky he didn't get booked for it, actually, right in the first minute of the game. Joao Cancelo, I'll give an 8 to today.
1-2 penalty, scored a goal.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's cruel. It should be 8.5, 9. But obviously, I'd say he gets the biggest portion of blame for the first goal they let in. Marc Bernal, 6.5, solid. Pedri, 6.5. Dani Olmo, actually the best midfielder today for Barca. Not just because of his goal, it actually was quite good. I'm going to give him an 8. Rooney Bartaji, 6. Pretty quiet performance from Rooney. Lewandowski, I have to give him a 4. Because he missed good chances. He didn't combine too badly. I think that's still one of the plus points he has above Ferran, is that he's just better at combining with people, receiving the ball. Even for one of the goals, I can't remember which one it was now. One of the ones that led to a penalty. It's Lewandowski doing decent hold up and then sort of in creating the move. Raphinha, I will give him. It's crazy. He scored a hat trick. I'll give him an 8. Doesn't deserve more than 8 in my opinion. Fermin, solid off the bench, 7. I can't really rate the other players.
Ronald Araujo, I'm not saying he deserves a meeting, but a meeting? Doesn't deserve a rating, but missed an absolute
header
great chance.
Bar, yeah.
Great header for Big Ron.
Yeah.
And then had the
McDonald's.
Then made the gesture of giving the captain's armband to Gavi, which I don't think Hansi Flick loved, even though he said he did.
Hansi Flick's Germany wants order. That's not order. There's no order in that.
Hansi Flick said, lovely gesture. Was that your idea? And he was like, no, I knew nothing about it, but nice gesture. But you could tell he was thinking, like, what are they doing, these guys? He was like, it shows the atmosphere.
He wants the process, and that wasn't part of the process, Ronald. That's about it.
Right, that's all on Barca's game against Sevilla then if you head over to Patreon now for free members, where you can sign up for free, and for long-standing patrons, we'll carry on and we'll talk about the election. We don't have the result yet, but we will bring you a result in the second half over on Patreon. There'll also be reactions to the Newcastle game on there later this week, and a Q&A with Patreons as well. So for those that are tuning out now on the Free Monday podcast, stay positive. For those that are heading over to Patreon, we'll see you there.